Hey guys, welcome to Crackbook. Strange day today, like really strange day. It's one of those days where the past, the current situation, and the future collide. I was planning to do this YouTube live today and have all of my paperwork out, but I'd asked Dean to please have the kids today to give me the space to do this, and obviously he hasn't done, so it's a little bit different. So what is it you want, sweetheart? Fudge. There is no other fudges, you've just had your fudge. Would you like a juice? No? You want some ninnin for a bit? Lay down. Shiloh's asleep at the moment, and Elijah is still up. So, but I just wanted to come and have a chat on Crackbook for a bit, because just 2 seconds, let me get my, because you know it's Christmas and it's a really hard time for many people as it is, but for parents who've had children taken by social services, it's a hard time for all, and it's a hard time for the kids too, believe it or not. At the end of the day, our children, our blood, you know, I'm not being crude or anything like that right now, and I wouldn't usually have my breasts on camera, but I have a little boy who is currently nuzzled onto his mum, and basically my DNA, my blood, his father's DNA, his father's blood runs through him. He is me and his father, and it doesn't matter where a child is placed, whether it's in long-term foster care or whether the children have been adopted, they're our blood. And there is nothing that any foster carer or adoptive person or any step-parent can ever replace the natural bond between a mother, a child, and a father and a child, a grandparents, and the genuine family. I posted out last night the agenda of Agenda 21 to divide family. So at the end of the day, our country needs us to be very subordinate, to do as they're told, to follow the rules, to play the game. And the plan is to have pretty much all children under the rules of the state. And this is really shit. And it's time that we sort of took our own country back. I'm going to go live on YouTube later, and the reason that I'm doing these over on YouTube is because obviously it's a YouTube channel, but because when you do lives on here, obviously it goes through your feeds, and on YouTube channel you'll break it down. So what I'm going to go and do over on YouTube tonight is literally this time now, on the 13th of December 2013, that I was sitting here thinking that everything is going to be okay. I had literally on that morning, and I'll talk about this more over on YouTube, but I'd literally on that morning had the social worker come round about transferring over my indicative budget and care plan for my emergency plan in the event of me going into A&E. And I was genuinely struggling at the time. I had literally gone down the stairs and across the hallway into the washroom, and somebody had left water all over the floor, and I'd slipped my discs, and I had 2 little kids, and under those circumstances I would usually have gone into A&E, but because their rules were that my son, who was 15 at the time, couldn't stay with his younger brothers, and that my auntie, who lived local, couldn't come on site without 24 hours notice, I was trying to get these changed. So it was literally about this time that I just finished a 2-hour meeting with Cheryl Osberland. And funny enough, Cheryl Osberland had actually been at the National Achievers Congress in the UPW in 2012. I'd been there as a crew and as a trainer, and she was attending as a guest. So we had a really great conversation, and I actually felt that for the first time that I had a social worker who understood that my current situation was just the residual and that I was moving forward to a different way of living. And then obviously, it's just about now that I was putting on Aaron's shoes, and he was literally just getting to that point where he didn't want to go over to the meeting at Save the Family. He wanted to play on the Xbox. And it's this moment where all of a sudden, me as an EDS mother with 2 children with a hospital plan got turned around and turned into something completely different. And it's in about 2 or 3 hours, it's when I get the call from social services to say that I've just picked Darren up by the head and dropped him on the floor. And I'm like, that's absolutely crazy. And then all of the kerfuffle is starting. So, there's me thinking, fantastic, social services have been out. I'm going to take a sabbatical from work over Christmas. And come January the 6th, we're going to get a plan in place to get everything sorted, to get things moving forward. And, that is pretty much what I thought was going to happen. And I was focused on the fact that I was putting a Christmas tree up with the boys. Daniel was on his way up to come, and he was going to be with us for, the whole of Christmas, because he was staying with his dad at that point. He'd always lived with me. It was just literally while I was at Save the Family, he was at his dad's, so he could stay at school. Liam was still at college at this time. And, as a mother, all I was thinking about was how I was going to get out and about. I still had a car at the time. And how I was going to get out and about with the 2 boys to go and get their Christmas presents, with the fact that my discs were playing up in my back. I had just been, sort of preparing things to move forward. And as much as, it was a time of struggle, that it just needed some common sense. All it needed was some common sense. All Save the Family had to do was change their 24-hour policy for people coming on site, that my auntie would be able to come on site in the event of an emergency, or if I just needed her. So if I woke up that day and thought, oh shit, my back is really sort of packing up, and I rang my auntie to sort of say, hey, what are you doing today? As you would in a normal home, then my auntie should have been able to come on site. But rather than doing this turned into police and social services going to the hospital, and leading to pretty much a 26-week court process that threw me and my oldest son, who remained with me all the way through this, into one of the most painful, emotional, it's hard to describe. The only thing I can say to any parent that has their children is, when you're walking around the shop or you've gone into town and you've got your kids with you, and all of a sudden you turn around and one of your kids is gone, for that first moment you're like, Elijah, where are you? And then there's that no response. And then there's that, shit, has he gone out the shop? Has he gone down the line? Where is he? Where, where's he gone? And then a parent will get to that point where it's like, oh my goodness, where's my kid gone? Like, and when you're in a shop and you go through this moment, there's this moment where you go, it's all right, I'm going to turn the corner and they're just going to be stood in the toy aisle, and, it's okay, we carry on shopping. But then there's that moment where you think, shit, they've gone out the shop, they've ran, I can't find them. And then panic sets in, then fear sets in. Now, if you're a parent who's got your children, then you imagine for 1 minute how it would feel if all of a sudden you didn't find your child. Then what do? So then the shopkeepers are all coming out, and then people are starting to look for your children. And then it gets to a point where it's like, well, fuck, hang on a minute. Oh, well, and then it's okay, we're going to find them. We'll find them. They're going to be okay. It's still cool. We're going to find them. But then what if you don't find your child? What if all of a sudden you don't? And then you find, so then it gets to the point where you have to ring the police. And then the police come in. Then everybody's trying to look for your child. Now you imagine for 1 minute, as a mother, as a father, who hasn't been through a child being removed through the social care system. Do you imagine for a moment that all of a sudden your child is lost? You don't know where they are. You don't know if they're safe. You don't know if somebody's found them. You don't know if someone's taken them. You don't know if they've got lost. You don't know anything about it. That panic and that pain feeling with parents like us never goes away. We just learn to cope with it. We just learn to suppress it. We just learn to overcome it and override it on a daily basis. I watched a video this morning of a mother who woke up this morning having a nightmare about her child who'd been adopted, that she'd been hurt by the foster father. And one thing that she said, she's got no one to ring. She can't ring and ask if her child is safe. She can't ring and ask if their child is okay. She can't ring and get that peace of mind. And it's about peace of mind. All parents want is for their children to be happy, healthy and thriving and to do what they love. And any parent knows that, you know, I'm in this house right now, yeah, and I have a door at the front of my door. I also have a 2-year-old little boy here who wants to go on an adventure today. So he's watching Peter Rabbit, and Peter Rabbit has a lot of freedom, yeah? So Peter Rabbit can go off and run around and do what he wants. But we know as parents that I couldn't let my son at 2 walk out of that door and go on an adventure. It's just not physically possible to allow him to do that. Now, if I had a garden, then I could let him go out in the garden and I would be safe to allow him to venture into the garden. Now, I would have perimeters, because if I had a garden, I would have a gate, and I would know that my child was safe within that perimeter to be able to go out and explore. But if that garden gate had been left open and my child got out, then any parent knows that panic. Any parent knows that fear. But that wouldn't be me safeguarding my child either. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to sort of get in, and why I'm going to be doing these YouTube channels, is I want to explain to the system, because I really don't think that they are intending to take our children the way that they are. The problem that we've got, and I've tagged Nadine, because the reason that I do tag them is security have to watch everything that gets tagged, because obviously I could be sitting here going, hey Nadine, I'm going to be scaling your house on Christmas Eve, and they would need to know that. Or I could be going, hey Nadine, somebody's going to put a bullet to your head. I'm not going to say that with my name, because all of a sudden I'd have police running all the way around my fucking house that I've just threatened to shoot Nadine. But basically, the security of these country, with every tag, even though it might not show up on their wall, they have to go through them all. They have to see them and they have to alert them. So I want to be able to show exactly how... What's the matter, dude? Hmm? Yeah. No? Oh, you want me to spin it back? Are you sorted? Would you like to watch Peter Rabbit? Do you want me to move it? You want to Peter Rabbit? So anyway, I want to be able to show how they're non-compassionate, lack of understanding, lack of empathy, cold, cruel system is doing to families. Now, I talk to people a lot and I say to them, what would you do if all of a sudden I decided to do a TV programme and I wrote to every social worker in the UK and I said, I'm looking for 5 volunteers that are willing, social workers who've got children. So I'm looking for 5, this is hypothetical by the way, I'm looking for 5 social workers who are willing to come in on a TV programme where we are going to put these social workers through the same processes that they put us people through. So I write to these social workers and I say that near on in the future, if you've put your name into the hat, you are going to get a knock on the door. it will be with 2 social workers and it will be with 2 police officers, and they are going to come with an allegation from a neighbour. Somebody has basically made a claim, and they're now going to put you through the same section 47 that you put us through. Okay? 1, how many social workers would volunteer to have their child removed to go through this process? Fucking none of them, because they know this process is really shit. How many people would be willing to come forward and go through that experience? Now, they could sort of see, oh, it's okay, we're going to get our kids back at the end of it. It's fine, let's go through this. Well, what if we said, well, hang on a minute, we're going to do this in exactly the same way that you do, and there is a chance that you will pass or fail, and we're going to continue with this process with the chance that, as they write on the letters, yeah? So as you receive a letter from social services, if they want to do an investigation, it will probably imply that they're going to have a legal planning meeting or a statutory meeting or something like that. And literally, at the bottom in black writing, it will say, if you fail to respond to this letter, we will have grounds to go to the court for an order to remove your child. Now, really? Really? You're threatening to remove our children for what? In fact, Donald Trump hit the nail on the head in something that he said over the children that were being taken from the parents that were immigrants coming into America. And he said, if you've got to send a hard message to the parents, taking their children is the way to do that. Damn. So anyway, I'm literally getting ready. Obviously, as you know, I'm all boxed up to move. Haven't got another house to go to because I lost the house that I was moving to, thanks to them suspending my benefits and all of that sort of stuff. I'm literally selling things on drips and drips. I've made £3 today. Yay, get in. And then literally behind all of those boxes, which when Elijah goes to sleep, I'm going to be potentially probably unpacking some of the bits because literally I've only got, the pots and plates out that we use on a daily basis. I know I'm absolutely broke, people, but don't worry about it. My fridge has still got stuff in it. And then literally behind that cupboard, I've got absolutely all of my bundles of paperwork. And one of the things and the reasons, hello, Celine. I didn't say hello to Hannah. I know Hannah's here. And then literally the reason why I'm going to do this on YouTube, and I'm not just going to be, it's going to be done in parts, okay? So obviously I didn't get my first piece of paperwork until what would have been the date tomorrow. And the reason that I'm going to do this way is because, one, I want to show all of the little things that they do in the middle that cause little aggros and little stresses and little things and how they do this. I also want to show them that they are not following their processes based on the best interest of the child. Like, I had one experience, okay, with my so literally, when my children were taken, it was about 4 days, I think, until I saw them again for the first time. Now, don't forget, I've also been through this experience with Elijah, where I was literally where that man is walking now, just slightly over where I was assaulted by a police officer while I was pregnant with Elijah last year, and, pregnant with Shiloh. And they took Elijah. Now, the difference was, when Aaron and Faith were taken, I didn't know what the fuck to do. Now, when Elijah was taken, obviously, I had learnt this system a lot quicker. And I worked my damn hardest. And in fact, actually, I did see my son on the very same day, the next day, because I was taken up to the police station, and then I was taken to St James's, and I was released the very next morning. They were trying to hold me for 28 days because, of course, this was the time of the adoption inquiry, and also of the time that the EU was back out. And, of course, they don't want little Kelly in the way, do they? No. Just like they don't want Sabine in the way, who's still in prison. Hats off to... oh, shit, their names have just gone completely blank from my head. But I know that a couple was released from prison yesterday who broke their gag. So they're home for Christmas good. But anyway, yeah, what I'm basically going to do with this paperwork is I would have liked to have done it properly on little bidgets all the way through, right through to June, because people don't understand how 26 weeks feels. Now, as you'll know, not long ago, I put a post on Forced Adoption Exposed about giving Edward Timpson a little insight into how 26 weeks feels. And I do believe they did go as far as quite a long time on his roof. I don't think it quite hit the full 26 weeks, but 26-week process is really long for a child. Now, Christmas, take Christmas for an example, right? If I say to Elijah, it's Christmas on the 23rd, 24th or 25th of, whichever it is, of December, he doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand, what is it you want, darling? Sports car, where is it? He doesn't really, oh, I've got to be careful, because on my screen, by the way, to me it doesn't look like you can see me feeding, but Hannah pointed out and took a photograph, actually, to show me that you can. So I have to do this in sleeps. So this is why we have the countdown. This is why we have the advent calendar, because it helps children know when something is going to happen. It's exactly the same as when a children sees a father if he's away from the home. You know, children need to understand in days and times and concepts. So, you know, when you take a child and one, you're putting them in a complete and utter stranger's house, and then social services are measuring that child's behaviour based on the reaction to the situation. Same as a parent. They are measuring our reactions based on what they've done. Now, prime example, right? I'm sitting here now. My son Shiloh is in bed and Elijah is here. And all of a sudden, bang, 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 I get a knock on the door. All of a sudden, there's 2 police officers and a social worker there who say that they have cause for concerns for my child and they want to come in. Well, you can close that door and you can tell them to fuck off and you can call common law all you like. That police officer is going over to that court and he is applying for a child protection order based on the fact that you won't even let them in. And if they want to come through that door, kicking that door in, they will. If they want to get police up this ladder, get the fire brigade and get in and break through my windows, they will. Because what you've got to remember is child protection is about children that have been physically, sexually or emotionally abused. Child protection. Social services is a whole system. So you've got the social care system, okay? And that is divided into under 18s and over 18s. So we have adult social care and we have children's social care. Now, the majority of adult social care is working in the areas of obviously OAPs, people that are going into, you know, are getting to a point where their body is breaking down, that, you know, arthritis might be setting in, the brain starts going. And we all understand from the cradle to the grave that needs need to be met. A baby is dependent on its mother, and just as the mother then becomes dependent on its children as they're growing up. But we don't live in a society now where we have mums, dads, nans, granddads that actually support their family members. We actually have families that constantly criticise and pull their families to pieces. And if you have a physical condition, especially mine, which is hidden, and Hannah who's here, and those that know Hannah, you know, one of the main things with a child is to provide this bond. So I'm a mother, my son is 2 and he's naturally feeding on me. And yes, both of my children co-sleep with me. In fact, I'm in a 1-bedroom flat. So where exactly do they expect my 2 children to sleep in a 1-bedroom flat? Okay. So they know that I do have a travel cot for Shiloh in the room, but they know that at the end of the day, my kids sleep with me. If they want to nuzzle up, feed with me, go to sleep, they can do so. But what a social worker's doing, and this is how, and I'm really sorry to trigger you, Hannah, I know you're here and I know you're really struggling at the moment, but you know, what they're doing is breaking the bond, because at the end of the day, they are, when you're coming in under a yeah, in a bedroom and on your sofa. That's what you're meant to do. So quite happily, quite now, I could quite happily, you know, just literally just nuzzle down with my little boy because he's such a little angel. And if I didn't have a camera, I tell you what, if this was Big Brother, then you would all be sitting here watching me. Oh dear, look, it's so cosy. So lovely to lay here with my son, co-sleeping with him. Oh, not to social services, mate. That's an instant removal because you've gone against their policies. And this is what I'm trying to explain. Because from when a removal happens, they are meant to focus on giving permanency to the child. So you have to break the bond with the parent. They cannot place a child for adoption who has a bond with their family. So what they have to do is break that bond. So one of the reasons that I've pushed for taking from the breast, and you'll know that there was a meeting in Parliament for breastfeeding, and what I do when I speak to parents who are pregnant is I say the moment your child is born, you get them on the breast. Get them on the breast. I don't care whether they've got a bottle there for you. You get your child on the breast. You give your child the best that you can, and you get your child latched on. Now, with another Hannah, different Hannah that's here, she got her child on the breast, but they still went through the removal and everything. And Mr. Nadim's team, who's probably going to have to scroll through and watch this, they need to understand that all the money and all the funding is all in adoption and long-term foster care. There is no supporting the family. And the reason that there's no supporting the family is because the assumption is that you have caused significant harm to your child. That makes you a bad person. That makes you an evil person. That makes you a child abuser. And we don't work with child abusers, do we? No. Now, the other thing is, within this care system, you have us people, okay? So say I'm an adult on my own and I have learning difficulty, or I think he's going to sleep. I got my other boob out, so I don't want to look just yet. I think he's going to sleep so I can have a bit of a chat and get this done. But if not that I need to whisper if he's going to sleep. So if you understand this system, so really this social care system starts from the moment, obviously, you're pregnant. So take with me and take with many mothers, okay? So if you're a mother carrying a child, you will then have a team around you. So you will have a midwife and you will have a consultant and you will probably have trainees around you who are going to deliver your baby. You are not expected to understand how to deliver your own baby. And in fact, if you decided to have a home birth with your husband, actually in this country, that would be seen as irresponsible because we have this system of experts that provide care. Now, a mother with a condition would then become a high-risk pregnancy, such as myself. So because of the EDS, I'm prone to hemorrhaging. I'm also prone to not being able to carry my children full term. And, dislocating pelvis, things like that. So when somebody has a need such as that, you could imagine that people have compassion. I should try and put my nipple away just in case you can see it. People would have understanding. They would have empathy. They would become from a supportive place. They would be about enabling. But unfortunately, people like us are seen as inconveniences, nuisances, drama. But at the end of the day, you would have that care in place. Now, when your child is born, they will put your child through all of these checks and all of these things, okay? If your child has needs, you are then meant to have support for these needs. Your child is entitled, I'm going to say that word entitled, that makes me a narcissist, by the way, for saying entitled, but your child is entitled to the same rights as every other child. So if I gave birth to a child who had cerebral palsy or Downs or autistic learning difficulties, my child is entitled to the same education, the same social life, and the same needs as any other child. And what our system is then meant to do